So I thought it'd be interesting to taste some coffees I just brought back from Uganda. I just arrived a couple days ago. Still waking up at 4:30 a.m. because of that. And go through these, talk a little about my trip to Uganda. It's the first trip I've taken since before pandemic. I was there in 2018. And some of the issues with Uganda. Uganda is a huge coffee producer. It's mostly robusta coffee, but there's a major region in the Ruwenzoris in the towards Congo. That coffee is typically being called Dugar coffee. It's natural coffee, and it actually stands for dry Uganda arabica, dry process Uganda arabica. It's like a portmanteau that is becomes Drugar, which is a name I just love. It sounds like Star Trek, or they visit the planet of the Drugars or something like that. But one of the issues with Uganda, and I found this with some other coffee origins that have a major coffee industry, but more of a commercial industry like Uganda has had, is it's actually harder to work there and kind of transform and upgrade coffee to higher grade, better prepped, and more carefully handled, sort of whatever you want to call it, specialty, micro lot, blah, blah, blah. You're kind of fighting against a tradition. People know how to do things. They know how to work in their local coffee industry, and they don't want to, do things differently, even no matter if the value of the coffee is going to be higher. And I find that's been really true with Uganda, and we've really had a lot of stops and starts and trying to get things going. I was there first time, I think, 2008, and we visited some of the high regions, the other Arabica region, which is Mount Elgon, and thought we were getting something going. But one of the big challenges in Uganda is rain, heavy rain during the drying season. It has a lot of production because it has is two crop cycles a year, kind of like Colombia. But a lot of the higher altitudes, there's incredible amounts of rain while you're trying to dry coffee. So if you want to dry coffee on the site where you grow it, you normally have to use a greenhouse structure in order to do that. And even then, it doesn't dry well. So a lot of people take wet parchment and wet coffee down to lower elevations to dry. And they can do that, but there's some quality concerns with bagging up wet parchment, moving it around. There can be issues. So let me go back to these coffees because they're ready to break. So this is the part of the cupping process. This here is part of the cupping process where you're just putting the spoon in the cup, just trying to catch a little bit of an extra aroma when you have break the grounds and let it float on the top of the cup. This is actually a calibration coffee. I do that a lot. This is like a really nice coffee, and I know what it is. It's Burundi. This is not blind cupping we're doing here. So sometimes I'll use a lower quality coffee as calibration, or more basic coffee. Sometimes I use a really nice one because I want to see how these other ones that I already have formed an impression of them. I've cupped these several times on the trip and see how they stack up against coffees I'm familiar with. So this one is one of the washing stations that I visited in Elgon area. It's called Manafwa. It's one of the medium to higher elevation stations. It's 1,600 meters, and it's sort of catchment area for coffee can go up to 1,900 meters. And what's interesting too is Uganda is right on the equator. We actually crossed in Kasese area. We crossed the equator there, and this next one here is very sweet. This has been a consistently nice coffee. This is called Kapchorwa. It's a well-known little community, and they have a washing station. And this is one of the highest ones that I visited. It's 1,900 meters, very, very wet area. And the coffee, I don't know, at Kapchorwa, the cherry that comes in there looks different. It has some different qualities. It seemed I actually don't know exactly what it was, but I was talking to some of the traders there how Kapchorwa and those coffees, they actually don't make very good naturals when they try to make naturals. And there was some discussion about why. The amount of mucilage on the coffee is sort of different. the varieties that are up there. It wasn't quite clear, but it was just some seed planted in my mind. The next one is honey process from the same station, Kapchorwa. Yeah, it's interesting. Honeys oftentimes for me actually are less impressive on the dry fragrance and wet aroma and on the break. Um, but I'm always sort of interested in see what happens in the cup because sometimes that's where you the honey coffees sort of shine. The next two are naturals from the Ruwenzoris from the west towards Congo. So these are the Dugar coffees. Or that's the name they used to call them. Yeah, so this is Kisinga station, and this is Bugoye station, where I had a better cup here. But this one's much more fruit punch I'm getting here, some more like cherry. And Bugoye is a little more spice. A little bit of like anaerobic, like boozy quality going on there. So we'll see how those are. So one of the reasons I really wanted to make a little video out of this, what's a sort of usual cupping for me, is a couple of interesting coffees I brought back. One of them is Uganda Excelsa coffee. So this is a coffee that is a different species than arabica and robusta and liberica. Excelsa is a very large, hardy tree. You actually, to pick it, you climb up on a ladder, which is not the way you pick arabica. And it looks a bit more like robusta. And this is kind of a faddish thing. There's a not fattish, fad-ish. There's a company in the UK Union who's selling this, and I just checked their site. They're saying, "Oh, dark berries and chocolate." I'm consistently smelling farts when I when on the dry fragrance here. I've gotten things like a little bit of like baby vomit in the flavor, aromatics, kind of mineral. Needless to say, this isn't really what I think people want when they. I think it's curious, but I don't think it's what they want to actually drink when they think of coffee. You could burn it, roast it real dark, and put sugar in it and hide that. But it's kind of interesting that you have, this thing of like, hey, this is good for the planet, good for climate change, which is awesome and real. And yet the product, to me, in my opinion, next to really beautiful or even just basic arabica coffees, is rather fecal. So that's interesting to have on the table. Let's smell that again. And if you're used to cupping some Robusta coffees, you'll know the kind of bitterness you get in here. But there's something, a little bit dead, like animal dead, about this smell. Um, anyway, let's move on because I thought this was funny. So we had a little event here, our second crack, and I tried to produce a commercial coffee for people to compare to, because what I think happens, and I talk to a lot of people in the commercial coffee trade a lot, is you forget how good even a basic clean arabica is. You sort of get so spoiled, it's like, you just take it for granted. And what you need is a little bit of a jarring experience with what commercial or low grade coffee tastes like. And I tried to produce that here, but I don't even have the materials to make like bad coffee here. So I try to dig up some basic different low grade robustas and dirty arabicas that I picked up on trips just for fun. And it still tasted good. And the funniest thing was it was fresh roasted, which like your commercial coffee is never fresh roasted. So anyway, on the trip, we were at these commercial mills, and they have true low grade arabicas. And an important thing to remember is this is coffee that comes out of, in a lot of cases, high end coffees. This is what you remove In order to make good coffee good, you have to remove this. And this also gets sold. This is a product that needs to find a market. So this is used for instant coffee. It's used by companies like Folgers and Dunkin' and some different companies. A lot of it goes to Germany. A lot of roasters like Melita and large commercial roasters will roast the natural arabicas. In any case, this, I don't know if this is washed or natural. I don't think it's specified. This is called R4 Alpha. And R4 is 400 defects in a 300-gram sample. So it's mostly secondary decafs. Primary defects, sorry, not decafs. Defects are stinker beans, black beans. So these are supposed to be secondary. And you see things like skins in here and old beans, some broken beans. This is not the lowest grade Arabica you can get, but it is definitely downscale. And what was funny was after smelling this next to the Excelsa, I kind of thought it smelled pretty good because it's Arabica and it kind of had some fruit. So let's just see how it is right now. I mean, it's husky, it's murky, but there is some fruit, and it kind of has some positive qualities in reference to this. Um, oh, and did I mention too this very funny thing? Let's just look at these two. Now they don't roast very even, but there's something I wonder if you'll notice is these are both roasted in the Roost roaster to the same spec as like our fine Arabicas. And what you'll notice is oils coming out on the Excelsa coffee. This is a very light roast. It's a cupping roast, 7.5 minutes with about 12% weight loss. So really a city roast. And what you see here is a lot of unevenness, and here you see oils. So physically, there's something different about Excelsa coffee and the way it reacts to heat. Maybe that's why it smells like farts. I don't know. We're certainly not getting what they say dark berries and chocolate from it. So these are the samples I cupped actually 3 different times on the trip. But what I try to do sometimes is bring home some green coffee roasted in my own lab with my own machine, do my own thing to try to get even one more view. And then the next step after a trip is I'll discuss which coffees we're most interested in. And then we'll be getting offer samples, which are usually called stock lot samples. Those are directly from actually existing coffee. So it should match exactly what we would buy. After that, once we decide what we would buy, we would get what's called PSS samples, pre-shipment samples. Those are to confirm that's the coffee you wanted and it matches your spec. And then you get arrival samples after months it arrives in the US. Anyway, I cupped through these and they're all, what I expected. It's interesting to have the Burundi over here for reference. The Kisinga Natural is very fruity and boozy. It's interesting how naturals can have that anaerobic quality or the quality that we think of as anaerobic. And a lot of that comes from, anaerobic coffee is not anaerobic. You're not producing this coffee without any air. What you are doing, I believe, is a very, very slow drying. And a lot of naturals from rainy environments are kind of the same thing. It's an extended drying and with certain arrested at certain phases when the coffee cherry is still wet and is wet for quite a long time. And obviously you get a lot of conversion of the fruit material during that time. It's kind of exactly what happens with these naturals here. So you're sort of like, is it all anaerobic? I don't know. But let's get to the Excelsa coffee. Wow. The thing, the thing with this coffee, it's like it's just something else. I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like coffee. There is this bizarre fennel anise like sweetness. It kind of, and it's weird because it's not sweet initially. It's sort of like, what do you call it? Aspartame or sweetener, where it kind of hits you. Aspartame.
Aspartame.
Aspartame. Thanks. Yeah, it kind of hits you a second after you taste it, not like sugar. There is a sweetness, but oh my god, it's it's like bile. It's you have to clean your mouth from it. And I did taste washed Excelsa, which I think was from the same project. This is natural, and it actually was much more tolerable than this. I wouldn't say good, but tolerable. Anyway, let's move on to this R4. Wow, that too. That just tastes like you put sticks in it or something. Um, that's interesting because whatever I got off of this after this that I thought was positive is hmm. Oh, that one has like sulfur. That has like sulfur. I was funny. I wanted to pass on the story that we were talking about there among all the parchment traders and everybody. When a coffee mill has broken coffee that falls on the floor and everything, that's what goes into this. Um, it could be from a good lot, it could be from low grades, but it all gets collected, and everything that in a coffee mill gets sold. Literally at the end of the season, they sell the husks. They sell. I mean, some of it's great. They sell. A lot of the husks go to chicken feed, etc. Parchment will be burned as a fuel, because they actually when they dry coffee, they burn the dry parchment layer as fuel. And the story was that you have this a machine called a destoner, because there's little rocks and stones that when you collect coffee, when it comes from, low grades come from the ground, you'll get stones in it. And there's a machine. In order to protect the machines and to have higher grade coffee, you want to remove the stones. So there's a destoner as part of the process. And, what comes out are all these little coffee sized pebbles and stuff. And the guy was telling me that they have a market for that. There's people who want to buy the stones. And so I'm like, well, who would want to buy the stones? And he was like, we didn't know. But what we found out is in the local market in Kampala, there was somebody selling stones. And the buyer for the stones was a low grade coffee dealers who would have, like, let's say 40 bags of coffee, but they came up short. So they would go to the market and buy stones to go put into their coffee so they could go sell it to the coffee mill. And then the coffee mill would have to run it through their equipment and find out, crap, look, there's a bunch of stones in this coffee, but they paid them. So, the deal's done. They got paid. They take out the stones. Then the stones, at the end of the season, the stones get sold and they go back to the market. And there's just this cyclical thing of like these stones just get recycled in Kampala through coffee when people are doing these shenanigans. I was joking that there'd be, with coffee, there's always loss and weight and the risks. You don't get the yield in the mill that you wanted, etc. But maybe the stone dealers also have this problem, and they have to. They're like, crap. We recovered these stones, we sold them to the mill, but we lost 5% of the stones. They're like, well, let's get some coffee to go put in there, and then we'll take it back to sell it to the other guys. It's like my stones are adulterated with coffee. So anyway, just this sort of cyclical economy around the stones taken out of coffee. I thought was really funny. All right.